All right, landing page UX roast number 2 in this series, and today I'm looking at user doc. It's created by Chris, and like in every video, we're looking at a desktop view here for a MacBook Pro 14-inch and a mobile view. I will go through both views, talking about the things that I like, the things that could be improved. And I have a few design tweaks that I made in Figma that I will share as well. So let's start on the desktop view here. One of the things that I like best is how the logo wall over here, it falls right on the fold. So you know, because you can't see everything here, you can see it partially, that there's more to look at. So that makes people scroll. It's super clean, no unneeded distractions. But one of the things that we can do here is bring in these great testimonials a bit more closer to the content of the hero section. Because content that belongs together should be close together. That's it's just easier for our eyes to see, and we group things just by how they are positioned. So bring these closer. Something else that we can do, if you click this watch video link, you go to a YouTube video on a separate page, which is okay. It opens in a new tab, so that isn't too bad. But it would be even better if you could display it on the page, like right here. And that's because it makes this whole page a little bit more interactive. Like if you scroll down, it's blue, it's white, it has lots of icons. It's super clean, but maybe a bit too clean. And having a video right here would spice things up, just enough not to make it overwhelming, but in this case, it could be a good thing. I made a quick sketch for that, and it could look like this, for example. Again, with this falling on the edge of the fold, see how UserDoc works with a nice border. It almost feels like you're pulling up a file by scrolling. Makes the page a little bit cleaner because you only need one button here, but that's a nice secondary benefit. So moving back to the website over here, logo wall is great. Sharing something about the different user types for UserDoc is great as well. So if you're a product owner, a business analyst, or something else in the list, you're like, hey, that's me. And that makes you stay on the page, and it makes you keep reading, what's coming up here. So that's great. On desktop, this works great. We'll see in a bit on mobile that this is much harder, but more on that later. This is also working very well. So the very commonly used project management tools like Jira, GitHub, and everything here. Office tools, CSV. Only thing that I would do here probably is highlight it more. Somewhere later on this page, you mention like, hey, we are SOC 2 compliant. That's great. That's something to be proud of. And excuse me, this is very very visual. It's much more in view compared to the grayed out icons over here. So why not, in addition to the SOC2 compliancy, also mention like, hey, by the way, we also work with Jira, we will work with Asana, GitHub, and all of these other big tools, because that's the reason for users to not use a tool or use a tool. Does it work with the things that I'm already doing? So be more proud of this, highlight it more, and bring it together. Because now it's here on the page, and then you have to scroll a lot, and then you get more of the things that it integrates with. All right, so where was I? Okay, so I like this. I like the icons. I like the clean look here, while still being visual, so no complaints here. Having an extra call to action halfway down the page is great too. So this is something that I think I mentioned in the first video as well, is now you have a lot of testimonials with very strong positive wording for your platform. UserDoc is instrumental. It's a game changer. It makes things very easy. Again, this is something to be super proud of, and why not highlight it more? So instead of making them all visually equal, because that's what they are, they all have the same size, depending on the content, of course. This one's a bit taller. They all have the name, the role, the picture, and then this quote in the background. Why not, if you go to the Figma file, highlight one of the main quotes, and then have the rest below here. UserDoc's AI cut down the time to create user stories. Yeah, that's the selling point. So highlight it, make this one stand out, and then have the rest below. I think that would be great, because at this point, especially on mobile, again, if you start scrolling, the same issue here, by the way, but on desktop you have multiple columns, but here it's one column, so it's scroll, scroll, scroll. Yeah, you keep scrolling, and users, visitors of this website, at some point they just leave. They don't know when the next section will begin. So highlight one, and then maybe you 3 to 6 below, but don't have this big wall of testimonials. That's it's going to hurt conversion, even though having a few testimonials will work great. Pricing. This feels like the default way of showing pricing. You have the cheap version, the more expensive version, and then the custom version. With this long list of check marks. And that's okay, but what I see here is that there's a lot of overlap. Unlimited user stories, user story types, journeys, CSV, Excel, Word, project management. These are all the same. And when you take a step back and you look at this, it's a long list of items. Too much to read, and that might mean that some users or some visitors of this page, potential users, they don't take the time to read some of the fantastic features that UserDoc has. I work with Chris, so I know how great UserDoc is. I work in software development as a designer, so I know how long user story refinement can take. And having something like UserDoc is super useful. But even though I know this, at this point I might be like, well, long list, whatever, keep scrolling. Or maybe even worse, I'm going to leave this page altogether. So if these are all the same, maybe highlight them once over here. Like whatever you do, you get these features, and then for a team plan, you also have this. What you can also do is list everything here, and then for a team plan, mention everything from the individual plan plus, and then only show the changes. Makes at least this list a lot shorter. If you click on one of the things here, it means it takes you to your email. So that's okay. At first I wanted to roast this this zoom effect, because it makes it look like a button, and in a way it is a button. But then maybe you don't need to get started. But that's a bit here or there. So I wouldn't change too much about that. So that's it for pricing. Frequently asked questions. That's not no need to reinvent the wheel over there. UserDoc. It's good to have to know a bit more about it. But maybe you can share a face behind the face behind the company. Something about how you got here and who you are, and stuff like that. Make it more personal. A really silly UI thing. I know it's not the most important thing, but this is a very harsh gradient. I would change this to be, no gradient at all, and maybe give the sticky header a 95% opacity, just to make it more glassy like everything else over here. Maybe a blur effect, but little details. Okay, so one more thing. And now we're getting really nitpicky, but I think that's important. It has to be perfect. You can only make your first impression once. Features, pricing, FAQ. So this takes me to section 1, section 2, section 3. When I click About, I scroll back up. So it brings me here, but I think the About section starts here. And the order is very important. From left to right, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It feels strange to scroll back up. So I think this one should point to this part of the website. Okay, so that's it. Lots of stuff. You can see that UserDoc has been around for a while. The website is quite polished. It doesn't mean there's nothing to roast. There's always stuff to roast, as you can see in this video. Mobile. So on mobile, we already mentioned the issue of having multi-column layouts turn into one column and the long scrolling. That's something we need to change. And then also you have these three. These can be on one row, 3 columns, because it doesn't take too much space. This, if you can make the logos smaller, then it would fit in a 2x3 grid on mobile. It needs padding to the left and to the right. I would suggest 24 pixels, because mobile phones, they get thinner and thinner bezels every year. But that means if you hold the phone, that your fingers will overlap some of the screen. You get accidental touches, but while you want, and also if you want to read, you might not be able to read the beginning or the end of a sentence because your finger is over it. So increase the padding to the left and to the right. Same here. It could work in a 2x3, but you need to equally create padding across all the logos. That's something you need to do offline. Something I do for every project just to make it align properly. Because now with the lean law being wider, it looks to the left, and then it's unaligned with the trapeze logo. Looks a bit sloppy. This should be, well, if you turn it into one column, then it will take up too much space. So maybe only show 1 on mobile instead of 3. And again, add the padding. Add the same padding to the left and right across the entire page. 24 pixels, that will be enough. And you can add a video here, just like I showed in the Figma file on desktop. This could work because of the horizontal overlap, there's scrolling. So I think it's okay. It's not perfect. Might be worth an experimental, A/B test to see if you can maybe list it or have some sort of menu here, but it might not be for the first iteration of this website. And I think that's it. It's turning into a 15-minute roast again, but it's getting somewhere. Maybe for mobile, I would turn off this effect because you don't have hover on mobile phones. You can see the hover now because I'm simulating a mobile view. That's it. Turn this into one column as well. Frequently asked questions, that all makes sense. And I think this looks fine as well. So there you have it. Chris and everyone else watching this, I hope this is useful for your own landing pages. I hope, Chris, for you and UserDoc that you can apply some of these changes. So what I would suggest for you is to do the small tweaks first. Again, have a baseline measurement of how the conversion rate works now. Make a few of the changes, especially the padding and the columns, I would suggest first. And then wait a month and see, if you look at your analytics, if you can see an improvement in your conversion rate. Don't try the big changes like this yet. That feels like a phase 2 change to me. All right, that's it. For anyone watching, if you want your own UX landing page roast exactly like this one, but for your own page, there's a link to order one below in the comments or in the description. Apologies. And that's it. Landing page roast number 3 coming up next week.